The title of this case is A Case That Horrified Even the Police, which I'm gonna tell you right now, police are desensitized to a lot of stuff. So if this is scaring the police, oh, it's something serious. Get right into it. And then this video is gonna be by Disturban.
Challenge for our search teams were what we're going to have to deal with on the recovery of body parts.
Damn. Off the bat, they just jumping out.
This case takes place in the United Kingdom on the 21st of April, 2015. Tracy Woodford was born on the 13th of February 1968 and grew up in Wales. She was described as a gentle and kind soul, and in her adult years, Tracy remained close to her family, living with her mother Linda and her brother Sean. It is said that she lived a rather simple life and was happy to just spend time with her family and close friends. The day of April 21st, 2015 began like any other, but it would be the last time that 47-year-old Tracy would ever be seen alive again. Her brother Sean recalls the details of that day. They had a cup of tea in the kitchen, where Tracy told her brother that she was going to be buying a ring in the town centre. So, on this day, she ventured into Pontypridd town centre and
Wait, but so this off the bat, they're saying that this lady was a pretty nice lady, so that's leading me to believe that she's the one that gets killed. Because it's like, whenever they're talking about someone getting murdered or something like that, person that gets murdered is always talked about like they were just like the nicest person ever. So I'm not saying that they're not, but I would think in my head, like, okay, the way that they're kind of talking about it, she seems like the victim.
purchased the ring. Following this, she decided to stop off at a couple of pubs and bars. Whilst there is nothing particularly strange about someone having a few drinks, it was unusual for Tracy, who rarely drank and had a low tolerance for alcohol. She wandered into various pubs and bars that afternoon, but at one point, she was refused alcohol for seeming to be too unsteady on her feet. Eventually, at around 7:45 p.m, Tracy wandered into the Skinny Dog pub, a place where locals...
So she was out for a few hours because they said that she went to those bars in the afternoon, which afternoon is 12 to 3. It's anytime 12 to 3. And then she didn't go to this bar until 7 p.m. So she's pretty much out all day. It's like, wait, what? And they're saying that she wasn't a drinker. Like she usually didn't go out to drink. So it's like, well, you're going to be out for several hours drinking? I mean, that just seems unusual. Like during the day too.
were known to have gathered. It is in this pub where she encountered a 50-year-old man named Christopher May. Tracy's presence at the Skinny Dog was noted by those around her, as she appeared to be nervous and fragile. Despite this, she found herself conversing with Christopher May and his group of friends. It is likely that Tracy's nervous disposition was of keen interest to Christopher, who saw a dark and twisted opportunity. Christopher was described as a joker and a nice guy by his friends, and the Skinny Dog was his usual drinking spot. As the evening at the pub progressed, Tracy's demeanour shifted. She perked up and began to feel comfortable with Christopher and his friends. Witnesses would later recall seeing the two flirting with one another, with Christopher at one point offering to buy her drinks if she went home with him, although Tracy insisted that she was not that kind of woman. But as the night went on, and as the clock neared 11:30 p.m, CCTV cameras would capture Tracy walking alongside Christopher.
She looks like she's roughly like 40, you know, early to mid 40s. Maybe a little bit older, but he looks like he's in like his like late 50s, early 60s, which I mean, I guess that doesn't really add anything to the story, but it just like seems kind of weird because she's like saying like, oh no, you know, I would never go home with you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, they don't even look like the same age range. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, he looks like this like creepy old man.
Christopher heading towards his flat. 3 hours following Tracy's last appearance on CCTV, neighbours residing beneath Christopher's flat were awakened by a sharp thud. The neighbours assumed that Christopher was returning home after a night drinking like he would usually do, and that he was drunk and had fallen over. Because of this, they paid little attention. That night, Tracy didn't make it home, and her family became deeply worried. The following day, Christopher appeared at his workplace. He worked at a restaurant, and members of staff at this restaurant noticed prominent scratches on his face. The manager asked what had happened to him, and Christopher recounted a story of an accident involving a pole that he purchased from a hardware store. This explanation was accepted without suspicion at the time,
What the
as there
fuck?
was no reason to suspect anything sinister.
He has scratches on his face. That does seem a little off. Like, if I saw somebody with scratches on their face, I'm immediately thinking that they got into a fight with someone. That's what I'm thinking.
A neighbor of Christopher had also seen him walking around carrying something. His appearance made an impression on her, as he appeared to be extremely fatigued. She noted that he seemed drained of life. With still no word from Tracy, her family began to take action. Tracy's mother had called around to see if anyone had seen her daughter. She called her other daughter Sharon to see if Tracy had spent the night with her, but Sharon hadn't seen her either. They had called and messaged Tracy a number of times, but there was no response. This behavior was completely out of the ordinary, so they decided to involve the police. As the investigation began, the pieces began to fit together rather quickly. The police checked out the pubs in Pontypridd and were able to trace the final moments of Tracy's movements. They heard from many of the locals that Tracy had last been seen flirting with Christopher and that the two had left the pub together. On the 24th of April, just days after her initial disappearance, Sergeant Stuart Williams and Constable Craig Gardner knocked on Christopher's door. Initially met with reluctance, they persisted and were finally granted access inside. The first thing that struck the officers was a foul smell. One of the officers would later say that he could smell.
This guy looks like he's gonna chop someone up and then fucking do whatever. But like, bro, this guy looks like a creep. Just looking at him, I'm not looking at this guy and thinking like anything nice. I'm not trying to be rude, but like, he just gives you that look of like, oh, he might be a murderer. Which is what the fuck. But she did willingly go. That's what people are saying. Was that, oh no, they were like making out and they left. So it's like, I mean, obviously he didn't look that crazy. But looking at him now, he just looks deranged. I don't know if they caught him for the murder or what.
And cat urine. Inside the flat, Christopher appeared apprehensive. He recounted the events of that night, telling the police that he had met Tracy and that they did leave the pub together, but he claimed that he had made an inappropriate offer to Tracy and that she walked away after feeling insulted. Christopher then said that he returned home that night alone and had not seen or heard from her since. Not fully believing the story, the police wanted to probe a little further. Officers requested to search his flat, and Christopher agreed. They walked further inside Christopher's home, where the smell became even more apparent.
It is crazy.
They entered the bathroom of the home.
Like, they just asked him if they could search the house, and the killer was like, yeah. Like, what what the fuck? He didn't even want to let him in the beginning. They didn't have a warrant or nothing. Then he let him in. It's like, it seems kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie.
And pulled back the shower curtain. And behind the shower curtain were Tracy's dismembered arms and legs.
Oh my God.
The South Wales Police Forensics Investigation Team were called to the flat, whilst Christopher was taken into custody and questioned. Inside the flat were a chilling array of tools. They found that Christopher had used a handsaw, kitchen knife, and scissors to dismember her body. The police found an Adidas rucksack containing the upper torso of Tracy, and a handbag containing the partial remains of a thumb and fingers that matched the arm discovered in the shower, although they couldn't find Tracy's head. News of the unfolding horror spread like wildfire through the community, as a dense police presence covered the area and media outlets gathered.
He took this girl home from the bar drunk and then just killed her and cut her up. Like, to me, when I hear that, that's making me think he's done this before. Because who is just doing that their first time murdering? Let's just be honest. Like, you just immediately killed her and cut her up into a bunch of pieces. It's like, what?
During questioning, Christopher told the police that he had hidden some of her remains in a storm drain. On the 25th of April, the police went to this location. Meters inside this dark tunnel, they made a grim discovery. The tunnel was incredibly dark. On a ledge, a meter or so from the bottom of the chamber, officers could see that there was something in a red bag. The officer then turned his head to the right and saw a human head lying on its side and was covered in bruises and slash marks. And inside the red bag were more of Tracy's remains. This means that Christopher had removed Trace's head, placed her inside a rucksack, left the house, and walked around in public with it on his back before placing the head in the storm drain. To think about him walking around in public with a severed head is incredibly chilling. The trial would begin later into 2015. PC Craig Gardner broke down while giving evidence about the moment he found Trace's remains in the shower. He said, "I thought my eyes were deceiving me, and that I was watching some sort of horror movie." A pathologist who examined Trace's body gave evidence. He said the dismemberment had been carried out by someone with experience with knives or of cutting up human bodies
Yeah,
or
how?
animals. Christopher had previously been employed as a butcher, and he knew how to use a knife, how to remove meat from ribs, legs, and shoulders, and was good at boning.
Oh
The
my
prosecution
God.
said, "It seems that his expertise in a butcher's shop has been put to use on a human body." The defense argued that Tracy was killed in a fit of rage after Christopher caught her
What?
going
Bro,
through.
come on. That just made me mad even hearing. Like, I know the defense has to make like a reason as to why the killer didn't do it. They're just like, well, you know, he made her mad and he killed her. It's like, what? Like, bro, that shit just, it hurt my soul even hearing that. He just chopped this girl up into a bunch of pieces for no reason. Like, what the fuck? Ugh. And then just took her head and hid it. Like, bro, again, that just tells me, like, how is this the first time this guy's done this? How?
His wallet. Christopher insisted that the killing was in self-defense and that he lost control during the row and strangled her to death. He also claimed that as he sobered up, he was physically sick several times, disgusted at what he had done to Tracy.
That's
He
bullshit.
described that everything
Fuck this
felt
guy.
real as he transferred body parts from his flat over the following days into
didn't
the
wanna
water
hear it.
drain. Although it seemed that Christopher was not telling the whole truth, from the evidence collected, it seemed that this was no accident. His laptop revealed that on the night of Tracy's death, he had spent hours watching adult content after killing her, suggesting that there was some disturbing sexual motive for the heinous crime. And not only that, investigators found traces of Christopher's DNA on Tracy's body. The
Oh my
prosecution
God.
said that it's extremely likely, if not certain, that he used her body for his own gratification when she was dead.
That's
The
fucked up.
prosecution argued that the killing of Tracy was a deliberate murder, and that Christopher played out his depraved and disturbing fantasies on an innocent and trusting woman. What is incredibly disturbing is that most of Tracy's internal organs have not been found, although some of them
Ugh.
were found to be blocking Christopher's
Oh my
toilet
God.
as he attempted to flush some of them away. On the 19th of November 2015, following a 2-week trial, Christopher
This
May
is
was found
disgusting.
guilty of Tracy Woodford's murder. He was given a life sentence with a minimum term of 28 years. It's reported that Christopher sat expressionless as the jury delivered the verdict. In the aftermath
Oh, they
of
don't
the
have the
harrowing
death
events that
penalty.
unfolded, the weight of the tragedy settled heavily on both the Woodford family and the entire community. The life of Tracy had been brutally cut short in the most brutal of ways.
I'm thinking in my head, like, in America, if you did all this shit, you chopped her up and fucking flushed her organs down the toilet, bro, they would give you the death penalty, like, quick. Like, it wouldn't take them that long to deliberate at all. They would just give you the death penalty. They'd be like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. Like, what the fuck? Like, you do something that heinous, that they're saying he got life with a minimum of 28 years, so after 28 years, he could just be like, hey, I'm reformed and get out.
Her family have said that they are heartbroken and struggle to cope with their loss. Her mother Linda
I
said,
bet.
"It feels like we're living in a nightmare. He has torn my family apart. He has destroyed us totally." And
What the
Trace's brother
fuck?
Sean has said, "I'm now angry every day and I struggle to sleep most nights."
Oh my God, man. Honestly, I didn't know what we were getting ourselves into with that one, man. Like, that was a crazy one. That was a crazy case, and I felt like that was a lot more intense than I even knew it was gonna be. Like, bro, he chopped that lady up, and who knows what he did with the body. Like, bro, that guy's crazy. And to think, like, how is that your first time doing that? Like, what? Like, usually usually with these people, they do like small shit and then it escalates. You know what I mean? But it's like, yeah, that was full like fucking horror movie stuff, you know, the first time supposedly. Man, but if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe. Let me know down in the comments what I should react to next, types of cases, etc., etc. See you guys in the next one. Apex are out.